All right, so we're going to start. Could you please call the executive meeting of Wednesday, November 3rd, 2021 to order, please?
I might never have done that because I got
Call roll.
another pair like them at home.
In a minute.
Sorry.
Like them.
Thank you, because they two pair like that.
Own meeting going.
They got the same scratch.
Bates,
Here.
Berman,
Berman here.
Davis,
Davis here.
Ford,
Present.
Here.
Gums,
Gums here.
Kenyon, Caius,
Caius present.
Martin,
Martin present.
Molina present. Sanchez, Strathman,
Strathman here.
Burgess, Pepe,
Happy here.
Shepro,
Shepro present.
Hero. You have a quorum.
Oh, very good, thank you. Mr. Ford, could you please do the Pledge of Allegiance for us?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well done.
Fine with me.
May I please have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from October 6th and October 12th?
Raz moves.
Caius second.
Mr. Kaya seconds. Are there any changes or edits to those 2 minutes?
Madam Chairman, I'd just like to compliment our recording secretary for introducing us to some Latin on page 4 there. Nunc pro tunc.
Nunc pro tunc. And that was
Oh, nunc pro
actually,
tunc.
that came from the attorney to my right.
Oh, why am I not surprised? Thank you, Mr. Shepro.
It means now for then.
I fortunately nowadays we have Google, so I was able to,
Ah.
having a biology degree, I don't have.
Casserole dish.
Now for then means that you do it today, but you do it as if you had done it back when.
Thank you.
Only a lawyer could.
I
think
guess
like
that's
that.
appropriate for our meeting, our
Handy
minutes.
for household chores to answer
Right.
to the wife.
Keep those to a minimum if we can, though,
Good
Latin.
excuse at all.
The law of uses done what ought to have been done.
Well, we're
Are
going to try to
those-
get much done today, so let's,
All
shall
right.
we begin?
Moving right along.
Is there any public comment?
Do we call the roll on the minutes?
Vote on the
My
minutes.
apologies, I got caught off.
You got
in-
distracted by irrelevant commentary from the vice chairman.
The romance of Latin.
Bates,
Here, yes.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Ford,
Ford, yes.
Bras,
Yes.
Gums,
Gums, yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Caius,
Caius, yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Molina,
yes.
Sanchez, Strathman,
Strathman, yes.
Sturgis, Pepe,
Happy yes.
Shepro,
Bolo, that's yes.
Merci. So the minutes are approved. I'm going to have to bone up on my French, my high school French, since French is the language of diplomacy. Um, We can all start practicing either our Latin or our French, and here comes Mr. Sturgis. Welcome, Cliff. Is there any public comment? Is there any public comment online? Seeing none. Mr. Anza, could you please present the monthly financials?
Good morning, everyone. I don't have anything new to report other than to confirm that the bonds were sold on October 28th. That's the date of the closing. It took place very smoothly thanks to all the preparation by our bond counsel and state's attorney's office. So that is now behind us, and it will result again in a total of $414,834 of interest expense. And we now have an interest rate of 0.43% on the remaining balance of those bonds. I will be happy to answer any questions regarding the budget, the draft budget, as you get into that portion. And that's all I have.
Are there any questions for Mr. Onsick regarding the financial report?
Madam Chairman Allen,
Yes, Miss Allen, good morning.
can I just offer congratulations to Mr. Onzek for putting this together for us and to the board for going along with it so that we achieve these savings. It's always nice to make better use of our money. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. And thank you for those comments. Well said. We are now on to the hard work, and I'm going to be turning this over to Mr. Berman. This is the approval of the budget ordinances and related resolutions. Mr. Berman?
Yeah, Madam Chair. Our first item is ordinance adopting the fiscal year 2022 annual appropriations. Do we have a motion to approve?
Raz moves.
Gums will second.
I have a proposed an amendment. There was a situation in the state's attorney's salary and wages that was left off to the tune of $242,089. I propose a motion that
So we added that at finance.
we did.
We have, there is a, Mr. Onzek, can you, perhaps he can, if I may, Mr. Berman, Mr. Onzek, could you please go over this for us with the
Yeah.
amendment?
Yes, I'd be happy to. What had happened was the public defender had brought to our attention that there was an error in the calculation of the adjustment to her salary budget as well. I did not consider the fact that the 2021 amended budget was only a partial salary for one of the additional attorneys that was added to her staff, and we needed to increase it to the full annual salary as we moved into 2022. And there was also an adjustment to the public defender's salary itself that needed to be added to the 2022 budget. So those additional amounts totaled $31,741. And so aside from adjusting the state's attorney's budget, we are also adjusting the public defender's budget. And so that is what was adjusted in the amendment that Mr. Berman is referring to. And I can give you the specific amounts if you need to have them read.
Just question, clarification.
Yes.
Sorry. So Joe, you're saying we did not,
Excuse me, name.
Shepro,
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
so we did not pass that amendment at the finance meeting.
Not regarding the public defender's portion. And then, I also forgot to mention that when the public defender mentioned that her salary had been adjusted as of July 1st, and this was according to the state, and that we had failed to include that in bringing it forward to the 2022 budget, that prompted me to take a look at the state's attorney's office budget and realize that we also failed to include her salary increase. And it was something like $4,000, moving into the 2022 budget. And so this amendment that Mr. Berman is proposing will correct the state's attorney's budget to include her additional salary increase for FY22, as well as correct the public defender's salary budget to include her salary increase and the remainder of that additional employee annual salary that needed to be included. So it touched two different budgets, the state's attorney's budget and the public defender's budget, which then caused us to have to adjust the total that was coming or going back into the contingency. So it affected those three different line items.
Madam Chair, on that basis, I will second Mr. Berman's motion.
Okay, I believe there's one more item that needs to be discussed, Mr. Berman.
Pardon?
There should be one more item included in that. Excuse me.
Oh, I don't have that. Then I will read the amendment. Now therefore be it ordained, the County Board of Kane County, State of Illinois hereby adopts the schedule of appropriation as the
Not me.
schedule of appropriations as detailed in fiscal year 2022 draft budget as of 10/08/21 for the fiscal period beginning December 1st, 2021 and ending November 30th, 2022, as amended to include the following adjustment to the general fund .001.300.300.40000, the general fund, state's attorney, salary and wages, decrease of $242,089. And for the account 001-360-360-40000, general fund, public defender, salary and wages increased 31,741. And for the general fund budget of 001-900-85010, general fund contingency, salaries and wages, 210,348. And also a adjustment to the 001-010-010-40000 general fund. The county board salaries and wages increase of $25,000. And for account 001-900-900-85010 general fund, contingency allowance for salaries reduction of 25,000. And they count 110-800-000.399.00 IMRF fund cash on hand increase of $1,683. And from the account 110.800.802.45 IMR fund, IMRF contribution, an increase of $1,683. And account number 111.800.000.39900 FICA fund cash on hand, an increase of $1,913. And account 111.800.803.45100 FICA fund, FICA/SS contribution, $1,913. That's the extent of the amendment.
And I'll second. Shepro.
Any discussion on that?
Question, Mr. Berman?
Yes.
For that second part that you read off, the 25,000 from the county board, where does that from? I understand the public defender and the state's attorneys, but you mentioned a couple more allocations that I'm not familiar with.
I don't have the detail, Madam
I can
Chair.
speak to that. We're in the process of negotiating a compensation for the new position of public information officer, and that's an increase for the negotiated compensation.
Discussion? Yes.
Yes.
A follow-up to that, what was the original requested amount for the PIO? And then-
100,000.
And then so we're requesting 125,000 to
That
be
is
an
correct.
increase? Okay, thank you.
And to put that in perspective, in DuPage County, that same position is, I think the salary is around 180, 190,000.
Any other questions, discussion? Ask for a roll call on the amendment, please.
We have a copy of that resolution sent to us.
I just received it last night. It can be sent to you. It'll get final approval.
Complicated to be read out loud.
What I'll explain. It's because of all the numbers, and I appreciate that. $25,000 negotiated increase in the budgeted salary. No formal offer is being made yet pending approval of this. And then the rest of it is additional, since it's the compensation, IMRF, the retirement fund. Then we have the our retirement contribution, which is the same amount. Then FICA, the increase in that, and FICA Social Security. So it's the IMRF fund is $1,683.
The numbers were not very big, so
No, it's
it's
small.
not millions. but-
And then FICA Social Security that we have to pay pending salary, our share of it, $1,913.
Okay.
And that was for the PIO.
Public Information Officer, that's accurate.
Okay.
And we have the committee, yes, did approve this candidate.
I thought I had a recollection that we were going to cap that position at 100. Did we acquire that 25 from another? Have we made some other adjustment to net that out at 100, or is this just simply an additional 25?
This is an additional 25. That is correct. This is an outstanding candidate. I mean, I cannot tell you how excited I am about this potential hire. The committee gave full approval for this individual, and it is fair compensation, and the candidate from her previous position is taking a significant cut, and that's her decision in her current salary to join us. So what we're about ready to get is what I believe is a star, and I hate to lose her. So that is, we're being very fiscally prudent, because I believe when we did the salary study, when we first started looking at this position, we were very, very low in the offer.
And where does this fit in to like Kane County Connects and the other vehicle?
That individual will be in charge of all of that. So they will be supervising the positions of overseeing Kane County Connects, all of our social media, our website design, press releases that are going out. And if any of you are doing, or I am, this office, I should say, will be doing any public presentation speeches, that'll be going out. If there's any issues that may be occurring within the county that we have to have good public information going out to our constituents, that individual will be drafting that as well.
And that includes the various departments that.
They'll be working in tandem with, she will be working, or that position, I should say, will be working in tandem with, not in replacement of. Because some of these individuals, for instance, I see the sheriff out there, they have their own public information officer, state's attorney has their own public information officer in collaboration with.
Okay.
Yes.
Serge is here. So, and just so I'm understanding this, because I oftentimes get confused with the vernacular. So when we say a department, if there's a county-wide elected office, they have their own information officer. Yet we have departments that are within the county that have their own information pieces. Then we have Kane County Connects. This person is not designed to replace any of those, but to simply enhance and coordinate all of those efforts.
At this juncture, yes.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Do we have roll call on the amendment, please?
Bates,
It's yes.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Ford,
Ford, yes.
Bras,
Yes.
Gums,
Gums, yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Caius,
Caius, yes.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Molina, yes.
Sanchez, Strathman,
Strathman, yes.
Sturgis, Pepe,
Pepe, yes.
Shepro.
Shepro, yes.
That passes.
Wonderful, thank you.
Now we have a motion for the adopting our fiscal year 2022 annual appropriation as amended. Do we have a roll call on that?
Bates.
Bates, yes.
Berman.
Berman, yes.
Davis.
Davis, yes.
Ford.
Ford, yes.
Yes.
Gums.
Gums, yes.
Kenyon.
Yes.
Caius.
Caius, yes.
Martin.
Martin, yes.
Molina.
Molina, yes.
Sanchez. Strathman.
Strathman, yes.
Sturgis. Pepe. Shepro.
Shepro, yes.
That passes.
Item 2 on our resolution, excuse me, adopting a tax levy for the general fund. Do we have a motion to approve?
Shepro moves.
Raz
Opposed,
seconds.
Martin second. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Bates.
Bates, yes.
Berman.
Berman, yes.
Davis.
Davis, yes.
Ford.
Yes.
Frost.
Yes.
Gums.
Yes.
Kenyon.
Yes.
Caius.
Caius, yes.
Martin.
Martin, yes.
Molina.
Molina, yes.
Sanchez. Strathman.
Strathman, yes.
Sturgis. Tepe.
Tepe, yes.
Shepro.
Shepro, yes.
Approved.
Item 3, a resolution adopting a tax levy for the insurance liability fund. Do we have a motion? Martin moves. Sturgis second. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Bates.
Bates, yes.
Berman.
Berman, yes.
Davis.
Davis, yes.
Ford.
Yes.
Frost.
Yes.
Gums.
Gums, yes.
Kenyon.
Yes.
Caius.
Caius, yes.
Martin.
Martin, yes.
Molina.
Molina, yes.
Strathman.
Strathman, yes, sorry.
Sturgis.
yes.
Tepe.
Tepe, yes.
Shepro.
Shepro, yes.
Passes.
Item 4, a resolution adopting a tax levy for the Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund. A motion to approve?
Bates,
Davis moves.
Bates moves,
Davis.
okay, Martin second. No. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Bates.
Yes.
Berman.
Berman, yes.
Davis.
Davis, yes.
Ford.
Yes.
Frost.
Yes.
Gums.
Gums, yes.
Kenyon.
Yes.
Caius.
Caius, yes.
Martin.
Martin, yes.
Molina.
Molina, yes.
Strathman.
Strathman, yes.
Sturgis. Tepe.
Tepe, yes.
Shepro.
Shepro, yes.
Passes.
Item 5, a resolution adopting a tax levy for the Social Security Fund. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll move.
All right, Kenyon moves,
Caius, second.
Caius second. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Bates.
Yes.
Berman.
Berman, yes.
Davis.
Davis, yes.
Ford.
Yes.
Frost. Gums.
Yes.
Kenyon.
Yes.
Caius.
Caius, yes.
Martin.
Martin, yes.
Molina.
Molina, yes.
Strathman.
Strathman, yes.
Sturgis. Tepe.
Tepe, yes.
Shepro.
Shepro, yes.
Passes.
And item 6, the resolution adopting a tax levy for the County Highway Fund.
Raz moves.
Rouse moves,
Shepro, seconds.
Hefner second. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Bates.
Bates, yes.
Berman.
Berman, yes.
Davis.
Davis, yes.
Ford.
Yes.
Frost.
Yes.
Gums.
Yes.
Kenyon.
Yes.
Caius.
Caius, yes.
Martin.
Martin, yes.
Molina.
Molina, yes.
Strathman.
Strathman, yes.
Sturgis. Tepe.
Tepe, yes.
Shepro.
Shepro, yes.
Passes.
And item 7, a resolution adopting a tax levy for the County Bridge Fund.
Raz moves.
Rouse moves,
Gums will second.
Jeffro seconds. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Bates.
Yes.
Berman.
Berman, yes.
Davis.
Davis, yes.
Ford.
Yes.
Frost. Gums.
Yes.
Kenyon.
Yes.
Caius.
Caius, yes.
Martin.
Martin, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Strathman,
Strathman, yes.
Sturgis,
Yes.
Tepe,
Steffi, yes.
Shepro,
Shepro, yes.
passes.
Item 8, a resolution adopting a tax levy for the county highway matching fund.
Braz moves.
Braz moves,
Gums will second.
Gump second. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Bates,
Yes.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Ford,
Yes.
Frost,
Yes.
Gums,
Yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Caius,
Caius, yes.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Strathman,
Strathman, yes.
Sturgis,
Yes.
Tepe,
Steffi, yes.
Shepro.
And item 9, a resolution adopting a tax levy for the Kane County Health Fund. Do we have a
Gums will
motion?
move.
Ford seconds.
In a second, I'll just do discussion. Roll call, please.
Bates,
Yes.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Davis, Ford,
Davis, yes.
thank you, Ford,
Yes.
Frost,
Yes.
Gums,
Yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Caius,
Caius, yes.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Strathman,
Strathman, yes.
Sturgis, Tepe,
Steffi, yes.
Shepro,
Shepro, yes.
thank you.
And item 10, a resolution adopting a tax levy for the Veterans Commission Fund.
Kenyon moves.
Moves.
Can you move?
Sturgis second.
Sturgis second. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Bates,
Bates, yes.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Ford,
Ford, yes.
Frost,
Yes.
Gums,
Yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Caius,
Caius, yes.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Strathman,
Strathman, yes.
Sturgis,
Sturgis, yes.
Tepe,
Steffi, yes.
Shepro.
Shepro, yes.
Thank you. Passes.
Item 11, a resolution adopting a tax levy for the Sherwood Farm Special Service Area. Do we have a motion?
Caius move.
Caius moves.
Braz seconds.
Braz second. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Bates,
Yes.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Ford,
Yes.
Frost, Gums,
Yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Caius,
Caius, yes.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Strathman,
Strathman, yes.
Sturgis,
Sturgis, yes.
Tepe,
Steffi, yes.
Shepro.
Shepro, present. Sorry. Yes.
Thank you. Passes.
Item 12, a resolution adopting a tax levy for the Wildwood West Special Billing Area. Martin moves.
Braz seconds.
Braz second. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Bates,
Bates, yes.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Ford,
Yes.
Frost, Gums,
Yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Caius,
Caius, yes.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Strathman,
Strathman, yes.
Sturgis,
Sturgis, yes.
Tepe,
Steffi, yes.
Shepro.
Shepro, yes.
Thank you. Passes.
And item 13, a resolution adopting a tax levy for the Cheval Diesel Special Billing Area.
Braz moves.
Braz moves.
Caius, second.
Caius second. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Bates,
Bates, yes.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Ford,
Yes.
Frost,
Yes.
Gums,
Yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Caius,
Caius, yes.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Strathman,
Strathman, yes.
Sturgis,
Sturgis, yes.
Tepe,
Steffi, yes.
Shepro.
Shepro, yes.
Passes. Thank you.
Item 14, a resolution adopting a tax levy for the Plank Road Estates Special Billing Area. Do we have a motion to approve?
Braz moves.
Braz moves. Ford second. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Bates,
Bates, yes.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Ford,
Yes.
Frost,
Yes.
Gums,
Gums, yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Caius,
Caius, yes.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Strathman,
Strathman, yes.
Sturgis,
Sturgis, yes.
Tepe,
Steffi, yes.
Shepro.
Shepro, yes.
Passes.
Item 15, a resolution adopting a tax levy for the Exposition View Special Billing Area.
Ford moves.
Ford moves.
Caius, second.
Caius second. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Bates,
Bates, yes.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Ford,
Yes.
Frost, Gums,
Yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Caius,
Caius, yes.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Strathman,
Strathman, yes.
Sturgis,
Sturgis, yes.
Tepe,
Tepe, yes.
Shipro,
Shepro, yes.
passes.
And item 16, a resolution adopting a tax levy for the Pasadena Drive Special Billing Area. Do we have a motion? Motion to approve.
Braz moves.
Caius, second.
Caius, second. Discussion. Roll call, please.
Bates,
Bates, yes.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Ford,
Yes.
Frost,
Yes.
Gums,
Yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Caius,
Caius, yes.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Strathman,
Strathman, yes.
Sturgis,
Sturgis, yes.
Tepe,
Tepe, yes.
Shipro,
Shepro, yes.
passes.
17, a resolution adopting a tax levy for the Tamara Dittman Special Billing Area. Do we have a motion to approve?
I would, Kenyon would move.
Can you move? Ford, second. Discussion. Roll call, please.
Bates,
Bates, yes.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Ford,
Yes.
Frost,
Yes.
Gums,
Yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Caius,
Caius, yes.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Sanchez, Strathman,
Strathman, yes.
Sturgis,
Sturgis, yes.
Tepe,
Tepe, yes.
Shipro,
Shepro, yes.
passes.
Thank you. And item 18, a resolution adopting a tax levy for the Church Molitor Special Service Area.
Molina moves.
Lena moves. Ford, second. Discussion. Roll call, please.
Bates,
Bates, yes.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Ford,
Yes.
Frost,
Yes.
Gums,
Yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Caius,
Caius, yes.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Strathman,
Strathman, yes.
Sturgis,
Sturgis, yes.
Tepe,
Tepe, yes.
Shipro,
Shepro, yes.
passes.
Item 19, a resolution adopting a tax levy for the 45W 185 Plank Road Special Service Area. We have a motion to approve.
Braz moves.
Braz moves.
Kenyon with second.
Kenyon, second. Discussion. Roll call, please.
Bates,
Bates, yes.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Ford,
Yes.
Frost, Gums,
Yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Caius,
Caius, yes.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Strathman,
Strathman, yes.
Sturgis,
Sturgis, yes.
Tepe,
Tepe, yes.
Shipro,
Shepro, yes.
passes.
Item 20, a resolution adopting a tax levy for the Crane Road Estates Special Billing Area. Do we have? a
Davis
motion?
moves.
Davis moves.
Braz second.
Braz, second. Discussion. Roll call, please.
Bates,
Bates, yes.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Ford,
Yes.
Frost,
Yes.
Gums,
Yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Caius,
Caius, yes.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Strathman,
Strathman, yes.
Sturgis,
Sturgis, yes.
Tepe,
Tepe, yes.
Shipro,
Shepro, yes.
passes.
Item 21, a resolution amending the Kane County financial policies regarding the RTA sales tax allocation.
Braz moves.
Braz moves.
Caius, second.
Caius, second. Do we have any discussion? Molina.
Mr. Berman, just to confirm, this is Molina. We are increasing the portion of the current sales tax to go to public safety. We are not increasing the RTA sales tax.
True.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Bates,
Bates, yes.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Ford,
Yes.
Frost, Gums,
Gums, yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Caius,
Caius, yes.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Strathman,
Strathman, yes.
Sturgis,
Sturgis, yes.
Tepe,
Tepe, yes.
Shipro,
Shepro, yes.
passes.
And item 22, an ordinance authorizing fiscal year 2022 non-union wage increase. Do we have a motion to approve?
Bates moves.
Sturgis moves, Bates second. Discussion. Roll call, please.
Bates,
Yes.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Ford,
Yes.
Frost,
Yes.
Gums,
Yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Caius,
Caius, yes.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Strathman,
Strathman, yes.
Sturgis,
Sturgis, yes.
Pepe,
Pepe, yes.
Shepherd,
Shepro, yes.
passes.
And item 23, a resolution establishing guidelines for releasing general fund contingency budgets for new personnel, autopsy expense, and adult board and care expense. Martin moves.
Caius, second.
Kenyon seconds. Discussion. Hearing none, roll call, please.
Bates,
Bates, yes.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Ford,
Ford, yes.
Frost,
Yes.
Gums,
Yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Caius,
Caius, yes.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Strathman,
Strathman, yes.
Sturgis,
Sturgis, yes.
Tepe,
Pepe, yes.
Shepherd,
Shepro, yes.
passes.
Thank you very much. That's the end of,
Well done, Mr. Berman.
Yeah.
Very
That's
well
good.
done.
I would say that was one of the faster, more efficient ways we got through that.
It's very quick.
Now we're moving on. Is there any old business? Seeing none. Is there any new business?
Madam Chair,
Yes. Yes, Mr. Tepper.
Vern Cheppy here. Madam Chair and fellow board members, one of the main things that the county board does each year is to establish a budget. The budget is over $300 million and is extremely complicated. In addition to real estate taxes, about $50 million of that 300 million, we have over 100 different sources of revenue, and all of them, plus all of the expenditures, have to be accounted for in detail. I have some very serious concerns about the 2022 Kane County budget. I'm very concerned that the budget has been balanced by using $10 million of reserves and COVID relief funds. I'm even more concerned that for the past 10 years now, the Kane County Board has failed to increase the real estate portion of county taxes by the cost of living amount allowed by law without a referendum. And that there are several members here that want to continue that failure. I use the word failure because I believe it is the county board's duty to provide the county with adequate and appropriate funding. As a result of this failure, a gap of $16 million a year in tax revenue has been created that can never be overcome. I own a nice home in Kane County and pay less than $300 per year for the Kane County portion of my tax bill. The 1.4% allowable increase this year is about $5 for me. I can readily afford a $5 annual increase in the county tax. And why are some board members afraid to do this? Unfortunately, the effects of this failure are extreme. Virtually all county fees and other revenue sources have been significantly increased and new fees have been established. Scores of county employees are paid minimum wage. Many have had to get a second job just to afford to live here. Key positions remain open and unfilled because the county's pay structure is too low to attract qualified applicants. Talented and experienced people have left the county because of the extreme pay differential. The state's attorney and public defender's offices have virtually become training organizations for other counties around us where they are all paid more. Kane County provides tremendous value to our taxpayers. Why are we not yelling this from the rooftops? Our sheriff's department, state's attorney, chief judge, and public defenders all work together to improve people's lives. That's more than impressive. Our health department has performed brilliantly during this pandemic. Our county clerk's office has installed equipment and implemented voting procedures that are among the best in this country. Our transportation department sees that the roads are maintained and plowed. Every department in this entire county provides exemplary service. So is this worth $5 a year? Yes, it is. In order to correct this situation and have the 1.4% increase included in the budget, I have two resolutions that were prepared by Mr. Onset that would have to be properly presented. So later on, instead of adjourning this meeting, I'd like to move that the meeting be suspended until 9:44 a.m. on Tuesday, 11/9/21, and I'll make that motion at the proper time.
Parliamentary inquiry, please, Shepro.
Yes, Mr. Shepro.
Was there a reason why you were told you couldn't introduce them today? If they're going to be deferred anyway?
No, I just thought that was the proper procedure.
It's confusing because of the Open Meetings Act. But I believe that while we couldn't take final action on those, they could be introduced today and everybody would have the benefit of seeing what they say. Just a suggestion.
I don't see our state's attorney here.
It was.
She was, and she left. I have no issue if the board is willing to listen to this today, or we just passed a preliminary budget because it has to go through final approval at the board next week. Would you be open to that discussion? We can just go through consensus.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Is there any in opposition? All right, very good. We will, would you be in agreement to have that?
Oh, absolutely. I was
Do you
just trying to
have-
do things in the proper manner.
Do you have documents that you can share with all of us? Those
Uh,
resolutions?
I have 3 copies of them with me.
Perhaps, Chris, could you take that upstairs, please, so we can have copies for the board? And then we need electronic copies to be delivered to the individuals who are participating online. It basically has to go out to the entire board, please.
2 separate resolutions. I can.
Thank you, Chris.
Madam Chair.
Onset had emailed me the 2 resolutions.
Jane will be taking care of that upstairs.
I will forward those to Jane.
Yes, please. Yes, more discussion.
Just, sir, just so I'm clear, we're able to discuss this even though this wasn't an agenda item, nor did we receive anything in advance.
That is a good,
It's just a yes or no. It is. I've got lots of things that I could have introduced at appropriate times, and I just want to know what the rules
well,
are. Because Vern,
a
I
good
really don't
point.
want to push this off. I'd like to talk about it today. But
I could use a parliamentarian right now, absolutely. And I wish the state's attorney was here.
Shepro.
Mr.
comment?
Shepro.
The Open Meetings Act says, we'll come back to parliamentary procedure. Open Meetings Act says that an item must be on the agenda or the topic is on the agenda. Effective, I haven't seen Mr. Teppe's ordinance, but I assume that it is a proposed amendment to the ordinance for the fiscal year annual appropriation.
That's what I would think as well.
And so if that is the case, it would be in order to introduce that because you don't have to list every possible thing somebody might bring up. So Mr. Surge's question, the pure answer is yes, it can be brought up and it can be discussed. The question would be, which I think maybe is what underlies your question. Nevertheless, is this the appropriate time to do that? And that's, I think, within the decision of the board, whether they want to talk about it now or later. Normally, if something is brought up that day, unless it's capable of being discussed and resolved, the best practice would be seemingly to defer it and everybody can study the their own view about what this all may mean. And I have a comment that's not related to the parliamentary question.
If, just to clarification, because this is a sensitive issue, and just give me a second to get my words out and then I'll recognize you. Because we're going to be approving the budget finally next week, this discussion should be had beforehand so that no quick decisions are made. Thoughtful decisions need to be made, which is one of the reasons I think that we should at least allow the discussion with no vote at this point and be prepared to vote on it, just a suggestion, next week, so that it can be appropriately studied. And a position from all of you can be taken at that point.
Madam Chairman, this is Scott Berger. I have Michelle Neerman on the phone. If you have any questions regarding Open Meetings Act or due process, she is available to answer those.
Very good. Thank you, Michelle. Hold on just a second. Mr. Martin.
Well, I guess I have threshold questions which I would like to have addressed before we begin a conversation about doing this. For example, we have approved a budget as it stands right now. I don't know what happens if the consensus is that we then are going to raise the levy. Then how does that fit into a budget that we've already approved?
I don't believe it's been final approved, preliminarily approved.
Well, we've recommended it.
Recommended. There's
We have
recommendation.
voted to recommend it to the
That's
board.
correct. That's correct.
I think Michelle has an answer for that.
Michelle, can you please respond to this, please?
I think I heard, I'm sorry, I'm standing outside on my cell phone and then listening through Scott's computer. So I apologize for that piece of it. I believe it was asked if you could still make amendments to the budget. Yes, you can.
Okay, so
It will
did
be
everybody
finally
hear?
adopted on next Tuesday.
So
The statute.
wait,
said-
let me just, so that everybody can clearly hear, and then I can be corrected if I'm wrong, that amendments to the budget still can be in place because the final vote has not yet taken place, which will be taking place next week at the county board meeting. Does that answer your question? Yes.
Yeah.
Mr. Shepro and then
Say
Mr.
the
Winnicke.
statute specifically states that following the publication of the out for public comment, the county board may amend or alter the budget before final adoption.
Mhm.
So the last vote that we took, because I actually think Mr. Surges asked that question, that vote was to approve a tentative budget to put out for public review. And while I don't think anybody would do it, legally, you could take it, throw it away after the hearing and have an entirely new budget.
Correct.
But amendments would be in order.
That is accurate. That is accurate. Ms. Winnicke.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I really don't want to disagree with our attorneys on the board. However, I see this resolution that Ern is presenting as an entirely new resolution. It's not listed as an addition to one of the resolutions already being considered. It's actually a separate resolution trying to be attached to an original resolution. So to me, I will not vote today, but I just don't see it as being proper. That's my own opinion.
Let's take a look at the resolution. Mr. Tebby, can you let us know what resolution you would like to have amended so we can do a reference back to that?
These are two new resolutions that would have this change be in effect, okay? And as I said, they were drawn up by Mr. Onset. He was kind enough to do that.
At your request, please, at your
My
request.
But may I respond to Mr. Martin's comment about where this would be?
I believe just for clarification, is this not the resolution that says adopting a tax levy for the general fund? Is that the resolution that we are looking at?
That's one of them.
And what is the other resolution in reference to?
It's adopting the fiscal year 2022 annual appropriations. I'm sorry.
Madam Chair, Shepro.
Yes,
question.
Mr. Shepro, just for clarification as he's looking, yes.
Well, yeah, that's so, I guess my question for Mr. Anzick would be, if the purpose is to capture the full extent of the permitted levy increase, would that require not just an amendment to the tax levy for the general fund, but would it also require that most of these other tax levies would also have to be amended?
I would agree with that. They would have to flow in
I think they
unless,
would have to be, but
unless those budgets are already established as being appropriate budgets.
This is
But
Joe.
I
Anzick.
cannot, Mr. Onsick?
Yes, I could try to answer that. The way I approached it was I had prepared amendments to existing, the existing resolutions that you just voted on. So these are not new resolutions necessarily. There are amendments that were to be proposed to those existing resolutions. So the first one was a proposed amendment to the resolution adopting the budget, just like we made those changes regarding the state's attorney's salary and the public information officer salary. This would also make a change to the amount of tax revenue that we would be budgeting. And because we would be increasing the amount of tax revenue in the budget, then we would be able to reduce the amount of reserves being used. So that was part of what was being proposed in the amendment that is about to be shared with you. And then the other part is what you're referring to is changing the general fund tax levy. And I was proposing that the entire amount of the tax levy increase that we're allowed by up to the CPI limit of 1.4%, that entire increase be placed in the general fund. We certainly have the option to allocate it among all of the tax levies, but in this specific proposed amendment, I had just placed it all in the general fund tax levy.
Yes, does that, yes, we have, yes, Mr. Surges?
Madam Chair, so
Yes.
Vern, are you actually asking us to reconsider the vote on those two items that we just did?
Yes.
Yes.
Then I believe that's the motion on the floor.
That-
Is a motion to reconsider.
no,
Not yet, not yet. This is just
no,
discussion.
but it would be, Shepro, I'm sorry.
Mr. Shepro, yes.
No, the resolution that we were passed, and I would agree with Mr. Anzick, I think it's the appropriate way to do it, is that instead of adopting the proposed tax levy without the 1.4% CPI limit, this simply adds that. As I understand it, that would effectively add another $750,000 to the levy.
Correct.
And then the second ordinance, which is, would be, again, it would be an amendment to the ordinance adopting the annual appropriations, i.e. the budget. And that would be added by the areas that are highlighted in red. And I believe, and then again, that would be, you see, it would amend the property tax revenue effectively. And again, that would be by the estimated amount that would be received by increasing the levy itself. So you have to do two things in theory. You have to decide you're going to increase the budget revenue projection, and you would have to increase the tax levy to make that happen. So that's why there would be two resolution or one ordinance and one, but they are both actually amendments and not a reconsideration.
So we,
Amendments
clarification.
to what you already voted on.
No, let me, I think,
No.
believe I have a handle on what
Yeah.
the process is, and please step in if I am speaking incorrectly. So we have two amendments or appropriation. We have resolutions, ordinances that we approved. That was item 1, ordinance, and number 2, resolution. That was just approved by the executive committee. We are going to address those again at next week's board meeting. Because they were not introduced when we were talking, when Mr. Berman was giving his report, to do an amended resolution as we had with the other item. We approved it as, so we would have to either take it off currently, but it's already been voted upon, and review it here before it passed on to the county board, or as it is presented, when we vote on this again next week, it can be a vote on amending that.
Point of order
Yes.
to respond. Mr. Surge's last comment was in fact correct, because this committee already voted on both of these unamended resolutions. In order to consider this today, there would have to be a motion to reconsider by somebody voting on the prevailing side on these. And then the amendment could be introduced today. Otherwise, as Madam Chair indicated, if we don't want to do that, then these are really amendments to the things that we've acted upon. And so they shouldn't be standalone, and therefore I think would have to lay over till the board meeting.
Since we are now in open business and this discussion is happening, would it be, and I'm not calling it, would it be appropriate to have a vote currently right now to reconsider? Or should we wait, as suggested, to the end of this meeting to vote to reconsider?
If I could perhaps sense the sense of the committee. I think the idea of discussing it today, even though we haven't seen it, I mean, it's really not much to see. I mean, you're either for increasing it or not, but it would, putting it off till next week, when we already are going to have plenty of things to talk about, it seems to me that it might be a better use of everybody's time to discuss it today, and see if that disposes of it. Now, the thing is, though, any board member can move to amend the budget when it comes before the full board.
That is correct. And I think it may be, to answer that, I think it may be appropriate, because this tax levy has been frozen for such a long period of time, to have every board member voice count, so that the residents know who voted for what before it gets moved forward, because this could possibly be tabled. I think Ms. Winnicki had a comment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just briefly, a little food for thought. We've approved the budget to be reviewed by our constituents, the general public. And in that budget, there was no increase. And so if our constituents indeed were interested and reviewed our budget that we approved last time, now we're amending it and giving them, I mean, how are we going to get the word out to the general public that we're amending it for approval next week?
I believe there's probably several newspapers online right now who will be writing an interesting article about this.
Well, that,
I'm just-
yeah, and hopefully in a positive sense.
hopefully a factual sense.
Yeah.
Hold on. Yeah, Mr. Martin.
I don't know if I'm addressing procedure or substance, so I can be interrupted if my comments are inappropriate, but this is the 7th budget that I will be voting on as a member of the board. And what I believe I've learned over the 7 years is that putting a budget together involves a lot of pieces. It involves a lot of negotiation. And all of the and many of the parts of the budget as it's finally approved are interrelated. People make certain concessions in their department because they believe they know what the revenue is. People, elected officials make certain concessions or ask certain things because they know. And I'm not adverse to a discussion of increasing our tax rate, but to do it, in my opinion, after the fact of all of these negotiations having taken place, I would be concerned. I mean, Barb makes a valid point about what in fact our constituents have been told. I'll make a point on behalf of every elected official who looked at everything that they did in the context of the assumption that this was not going to happen. And as I said, I've never taken a position that I would never raise taxes. I've always said it makes sense as long as it makes sense. That being said, after the negotiations for the 22 budget have concluded and everyone is sitting as they were with things as we've negotiated, to have this discussion today and say, should we raise the taxes, I think is unfair to the participants in the negotiation. I always end up saying I'm not certain I'm articulating it as clearly as I want to, but this was negotiated as a whole. And now we're going to throw, the possibility is we'd throw this in here, and I think it's disruptive. I think it's an appropriate conversation. I think it needs to be had during the process of compiling the budget, not after the budget is concluded.
And if I may, and then we have lots of people who would like to mention something. I would agree, taking the negotiations, which each one of our elected officials and department heads, and asking them for cuts for new hires was a hard agreement for all of them. And many of them gave up needed positions, salary positions that was promised that we'd take a look at for the following year. So that would be in fiscal 23. By doing so, the county reduced its future compensation by over $2 million, which is a significant amount of money. So I do want to your point, they gave back to the county, they bent to fiscal needs of the county. But next year, we have to carefully consider where we are going to make sure that any needed salaries, both increases, so we don't just rely heavily on fee structure or user fees, but those are things to be considered. But that we do take a look at the services provided to the county based on prudent knowledge of what we can possibly, with our possible budget, our revenue sources. So I think, yes, Ms. Bates.
I want to agree heartily with Mr. Martin's statement that this will be very disruptive and very confusing to try to unscramble this egg. But I'm feeling that it's better late than never. If we can raise this levy and restore some of the cuts, restore some of the some funds back to the special reserve fund. I think it's unfortunate that we didn't do it earlier, but maybe it's necessary. So
thank you. Yes, Mr. Tepe.
Thank you, Tepe here. Well, my apologies for apparently having brought this up, but as soon as I began to realize that this was not in the budget, I just felt I had to do something about it. Because Mr. Martin said earlier, where would this money be applied? We have a $10 million gap in the budget that's being filled by reserves and ARPA money. And I just think that that's quite extreme and cannot continue. It certainly will not continue next year. And if we don't begin to address the fact that this board has not increased taxes relating to real estate for so long, even by a cost of living adjustment. I just think that that's a major issue that has to be done. So like Ms. Beavis said, even though I'm late with this is an issue that I think needs to be discussed. And so I apologize for the fact that it's the 11th hour, so to speak. Thank you.
Mr. Berman, did you have any comments? Did I see your hand up?
Well, this is an interesting thing. You know, obviously it was discussed during our finance committee when we were developing the budget. I myself, you know, when I ran for this office, one of my things I said is we had not taken advantage of this in the past, and I felt that we should have. And it, as it's been pointed out, it's reduced our tax income about 16 million over the period of years. But I feel, as Mr. Martin, is that we went through this discussion, we went through this give and take, developing the budget, and it was discussed. And I was in favor of doing it at that time. But I think that we went through that negotiations, and I think it's, we've agreed on what the budget should be, and I think that we should leave it as is.
Who is not talking? Mr. Sturgis?
Madam Chair, you know what, it's, oftentimes I find myself in conflict with myself when addressing my fellow 23, board members here. And I want to be as candid as I can for those online. I'm not trying to grandstand or anything, but the very first day that I sat in this boardroom after I was sworn in, the very first item of business was on a union vote for a 2% increase compounded per year for the next however long. And that turned into a little bit of a quagmire that we needed to work our way through. But the bottom line is 2% a year for 4 years, 8 years on top of what we're already paying, trying to figure out what that increase is going to be. To John's point, with taxes not increasing, there's going to be a deficit there. We've created it. It was the very first day I swore in. And so for me to not acknowledge that is just derelict. I voted for it. So Cliff, how are you going to patch that? In this budget, we've asked for an increase in a gas tax. And now, Vern, in the 11th hour, we're asking for an increase in the property tax. That neither of those sit really well with me, because we've put initiatives in place. Madam Chair, you've been part of these initiatives to say, we need to analyze exactly where we're at. And we have broad sweeping initiatives across the county to identify where our needs are. Put together your org chart. How do we compare to other counties? What needs are we meeting or aren't we meeting? Vern, I cannot agree with you more. Our staff does an excellent job. When I go out into my constituents, I don't hear anybody raising their hand saying, but you didn't do this. They're all saying, thank you for everything you do. The problem is, how do you balance that and make sure that financially we're staying within those realms? And I believe that those initiatives that we've put in place will bear fruit for us. Do I believe that we will need to make some adjustment at some point in time? Yes, we will. There's no question about it. Are we prepared to do that today? No, we're just premature until the results of everything that we put in place are there. And Vern, I applaud you for this. I don't think that any of us 24 members here today are trying to ram something through. We just don't have all the information to make decisions yet. And I believe we will next year at this time, but I hope we start this process instead of November. I hope we're really looking at this, July.
Actually, it's starting about
tomorrow. Yeah.
No, actually, it was about a month ago. We've already looked at it. And one of the studies besides salary is going to be a mandated services study to find out when's the last time that has been done, which was, I believe, 2007. And a point of clarification, in 1991, Kane County accepted the newly established motor fuel tax and passed an ordinance, and that it was at 2 cents. About 16 years later, in 2007, it went to 4 cents. And now we're asking in 2021 to raise it to 6 cents. We have the ability to raise it up even further by another 2 cents to increase it. But that increase, and I would like our constituents to know, is done incredibly slow. It has been very metered. And we are expecting next year to gain about $1.8 million from that increase. We know that that is going to be a decreasing revenue cycle over a period of time as electric cars continue to be affordable and people continue to buy those. But that's going to be probably in about 10 years.
And Madam Chair, if I could just finish, I do want to make sure that I point out, because we work with these people, because we are brothers and sisters in this 24-person group,
Yes,
but
absolutely.
we have partners out there. And so when the chief judge walks in, when the sheriff walks in, when the state's attorney walks in and says, we've stretched as thin as we can stretch and that rubber band's going to break, we need to listen to them. And the response to that was to put together these initiatives to figure out where to focus these dollars. And I don't want to ever bump into one of them at the Jewel or at church or on the street and say, Cliff, you didn't listen. Oh my gosh, we listened loud and clear, because it's not just snow plowing and roadways, but the judicial system, the safety of our community is the paramount importance. And I believe it's what makes Kane County special. So I just want to make sure I acknowledge that.
And if I may, also our buildings, our infrastructure is also is equally as important. Yes, Mr. Martin. And then
Two points, if I could. In my career, I spent a lot of time representing people who appeared before public bodies and negotiated relative to real estate developments and that type of thing. And my rule of thumb with all my clients was, we don't negotiate from the lectern, because you can't possibly at the last minute, as you're sitting before a group of people, have had the opportunity to think through how this impacts your project and what you're doing. My viewpoint of amending at this point in time is that we're negotiating from the lectern. We're making decisions that we would be making a decision without the opportunity to really have thought through all of the issues relative to what resources we need to utilize to increase revenue. How will this impact future decisions of the board to seek revenue from other areas or other areas of taxation? It's just the wrong time in the process. The second is, if I'm going to read a newspaper account of the deliberations of the county board relative to taxes, and I read an account that says at the 11th hour, they decided it made sense to raise the taxes. I don't know how that, in a naked political sense, I don't know how that shows up in a paper and looks favorable. It looks to me like we just took a leap at the last moment and said, let's do it. And I made it clear, I'm not opposed to conversations. I'm not opposed to looking at our revenue sources, but to do it at the 11th hour after we've negotiated the budget for the year, after everybody has moved forward. And this is really later than the 11th hour. I mean, we in substance, we agreed to this budget weeks ago. What's been on file with the public is virtually identical to what we are looking at today. So it's not, this is beyond the 11th hour. And I agree that the conversation should be had, but it's going to have to be had, in my mind, after we, as we look toward next year's budget negotiations and our decisions.
thank you. Yes.
Davis with a comment also.
Mr. Davis, hold on, you'll be next.
Okay.
Chaparro,
One, I agree wholeheartedly with what Mr. Martin has said. When we think about it, as Madam Chair commented, this was the result not of a whim, but of a series of fairly intricate discussions about how the revenue shortfall would be made up. And there were trade-offs. Mr. Tepe is correct when he outlines all of the things that the county needs money for. But at the end of the day, if we pass this levy, it would generate about $790,000, which I would suggest is not nearly enough to solve all those problems. Legally, can we do it? Absolutely. But again, the comment is, this has been, many of us have already responded to questions from constituents about why the gas tax. And part of the explanation was the gas tax was a replacement for a levy increase. Because we know that people are very, very tired of all taxes, but especially of real estate taxes. And since this budget, virtually nothing is a standalone. If you change something, it requires you to change other things. The whole point of the gas tax, as I recall, was because the people at the Department of Transportation agreed essentially to give up $2 million that they had uses for, but were, again, it's not their money, it's people's money, but
RTA money.
it was RTA money that is being effectively used to help cover part of a deficit, with the idea that that would be restored by the use of the increase in the gas tax.
It will go to support the needs of the judiciary, which is what the RTA money is allowed to do, not just to go into the general fund, in my understanding.
And frankly, I think if you start to open those things up, then you may find what you're opening up is not spending extra money, but well, maybe we should start making cuts. And that is as we lawyers would say, slippery slope that I don't see how we can meaningfully start making a change here and a change there and have any sort of coherent process. So I would suggest, as I think others have, that discussing it in any length, and by the way, we still seem to have like 4 pages of the agenda left.
I agree. I agree. We have Mr. Davos, though.
And if it's introduced next week, I personally, if we were to raise the levy, I'm not sure I would support the gas tax if that were the trade-off. So
The gas tax, so it's, everyone is clarified on this. It is restricted money that goes to 2 things. It goes to roads and it goes to waterways. That's the only use of that money that is allowed by law. So any other use of that money would be completely inappropriate. So what we are doing by increasing our gas tax by 2 cents is going to improve Kane County's roads, continue the improvement and the work on Kane County's roads, which I know that there's a lot of, and Mr. Frost will confirm this, there is a lot of additional work that needs to be done on our roads, considerations. There's some delayed things that we would like to take care of. And certainly our waterways are always have to be well stewarded and well protected and managed. And that is the only use of that money. So, Mr. Davos?
Yes, thank you. In listening to my colleagues, Mr. Shepro and Mr. Martin, I was in agreement, but I still am. I think this is something that should have been, this particular discussion should have started sooner. But as I listen to the whole thing and I think back on Mr. Tepe's thought process or where he started with this, what I came to believe was that we went into these discussions with all the various departments and department heads in good faith. And I think it still would be in good faith, even if we were to consider the levy. We didn't just freeze, we dug a hole. And we're paying dearly for it now. So I don't think that even if we were to act on this and accept the increase in the levy, I don't think that it would mean that we had our negotiations and our discussions in bad faith. We are borrowing what I consider to be an egregious amount of money to balance this budget at $10 million. And if we did this, it would be less than 1 million of it that we could save. It would not be enough to change the nature of any of the agreements or negotiations we had with any of the department heads. There's not enough money for that. But that being said, and I think maybe Vern, that's what motivated you. It needed to have started sooner. Especially when you weigh as Mr. Shepro said, the gas tax in there to do them both would not play well with the taxpayers, with our constituents. But those discussions that started a month ago really need to include taking this moving forward, the allowable increase, because we still have to climb out of the hole we dug. Thank you.
Yes, and I think we
This
can
will be
call.
my last time.
It'll be the last one.
Tepe again.
Aw.
Okay, first off, as Mr. Davis just said, digging a hole. This is, again, digging the hole, only you're digging it deeper. This would be approximately $750,000, but it's $750,000 in 2022, 2023, 2024. And yes, it does make a difference. And, you know, my argument is that this body has failed to do this. And I brought this up as soon as it was brought to my attention. I do not recall any public discussion about the fact that this increase was not going to be in the budget. And as soon as I found out that it wasn't in the budget, I began talking about it. And I brought it up at last week's meeting of the Finance Committee. And I know this is not a subject that is necessarily well received, but it's our job to continue to do things for this county. And I don't necessarily think that the fact that you're saying it's at the 11th hour, if things have happened within a month, and I brought this up a week ago, and it's been discussed by myself and several other members, too much discussion has gone on, not with public scrutiny, and not including something is to me more egregious than really discussing it and talking about it. So thank you, Madam Chair. I'm done for the day.
For the day, okay. Yes, Mr. Ford. And this truly will be the last comment to this point.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm not fond of the 10 million that we took out of our reserves, but I believe that this discussion is bigger than this ordinance and the resolution. We definitely need to take a look at our long-term and short-term, along with our immediate needs for funding. I think some of the things that got to fall into the discussion is things like, what does holding on to these facilities here cost us? Tourism can bring more dollars into our Kane County community. How do we reach that goal? Promotion of our fiber can bring in more dollars. And also, what is going to be the impact of our usage of solar energy? I think these things, and even more, can help us adjust our budget and our dollars to a point where we can have funds coming in without increasing taxes.
All right. Thank you for that. So let's go back to the very beginning. We had an agreement that we would like to discuss this later on. And we've had a lengthy discussion. I didn't time it. It's probably over a half an hour worth of, I think, very valuable conversation. And I want to thank Mr. Tepe regardless of how the vote comes out, to bring this to the forefront and allowing a thoughtful and robust conversation about the need for property taxes and our budget as a whole. But to refresh, if we voted consensus that we would like to have this discussion later on to vote on this, is that correct? Or are we completed with our discussion and can move forward to the rest of our agenda and not address this issue?
At the full county board, this, what we did today will go there. And at that point, it could be anything on the county board agenda could be the subject of an amendment.
Okay.
On that day.
Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Mr.
I think if
Gerber.
Mr. Tippy wants to make that motion, then we would have to honor it and discuss it.
Right.
Correct, correct.
How do we get this onto the county board agenda? Will it be on the county board? Because it has to be on the county board agenda several
No,
days
It's
in
an amendment,
advance.
it's an
Just offered as an
amendment to
amendment.
the resolutions. It's an amendment to ordinance that we just adopted, and that would be number 1 on your packet list, and then number
It's number something or other, 15, 7.
So we could vote on it
B1
today
and
then.
B2.
You could vote on it today, but only if you reconsider the vote you already took to forward that ordinance
to
without an
reconsider.
amendment to county board agenda. Procedurally, it's gone from our jurisdiction here because we voted on it without any amendment.
Correct.
So is it better to pass it on to the county board?
Well, that's the decision of the
That's the
executive.
discussion.
What-
I
and
mean,
that's the
among other
discussion on the
points was
table.
the argument that Madam Chair pointed out is that this committee ought not to be making that decision if it's going to be discussed seemingly. So all the board members should be able to weigh in on that and not limit the discussion to this committee. And maybe you don't want to have this discussion and then have the same discussion next week either.
Madam Chair, I will agree to place these as amendments on the county board
Agenda.
agendas next week.
Very good, very good. And as an aside, we're going to have a robust agenda for next week, so I will be making sure that we have some available lunch. There will be sandwiches.
Sorry, Chuck. These are drafted appropriately and we got them now. So if they went out to all the board members.
They did.
They did. They have.
Yeah,
They
so
have.
they will, even though it's not technically on the agenda, if they know that it will be moved, that amendment will be suggested, we've got it and we can't say we didn't see it
Very
till the
good.
day of the meeting.
Very good. Okay, thank you, Mr. Tebby. Thank you very much. Good discussion. All righty. So we are done with new business? We're now moving on to our consent agenda. Is there any item that needs to be taken off of the consent?
Item 1, the American Rescue Plan.
Is there anything else? No? All right, I believe that Mr. Sanchez is not with us today. What my understanding is, it's
Having an ill, or he's personal, he's not feeling well. So
okay,
I don't
so
believe he's going to attend.
is there a representative that he is appointed to speak on this issue? Is there any representation from the committee? No? All right. So that is moved for no discussion because it wasn't even included. The resolution was not included. And I would assume that it would be moved back to the actual committee, the next meeting of the committee.
May I ask Mr. Shepard why he's taking this out of consent?
Well, one, we still don't seem to have the final resolution, and
I don't have anything.
we got, everybody got it like less than 24 hours before the committee meeting. I have some extensive comments. I've asked Mr. Martin to look at my comments and tell me if he agrees that they are worth pursuing. But I still have some concerns about the way the agreement is drafted.
The agreement with Ernst and Young?
Yes. I mean, just to give one example, but.
But
one
this
of-
is the Community Support Grant Program.
Oh, this is the grant program.
This is the grant
Okay.
program.
So this
Then
isn't
I
the,
stand corrected and embarrassed.
And we have not seen any information.
But
on
we haven't
this
seen
at all.
anything on that.
Not at
so
all.
I think
the
that's.
parameters? I've got it right here. What do you mean we haven't seen it?
The grant program,
Establishing parameters for the community support grant
but
program.
it's not, that it is not included in the agenda packet,
Well, it was sent out
Nothing was.
a week or two ago.
but not, it was not given to
Not
the,
last night.
it was not given, brought forward here to this committee. Nor did it go to, did it go to finance? No, it did not. It went from ARP, which is an ad hoc committee, and I don't think it was approved by finance yet.
Was not.
Madam Chair Sanchez here, I can try and address this.
Oh, Mr. Sanchez, you are here. Very good.
Yeah, sorry, I came down with some bronchitis, it turns out, so I'm a bit late out, but I've been listening, staying awake. I was not aware that the documentations weren't sent out, so I apologize. I think the majority of this committee is also on the American Rescue Plan Committee. And we did come to some determination on the eligibility criteria for the $4 million Community Support Grant Program. So even what we saw last week was just a boilerplate resolution that required our input from last week's meeting that is now being put together. And I was speaking with our Assistant State's Attorney, Vince Coyle, yesterday. The final version will be handed out to everyone well in advance of next week's county board with all of the appropriate details in place. And I can briefly go over the criteria, eligibility criteria. If anyone wants to know what that wasn't at the meeting last week, what we came up with.
Well, no, we need to see the resolution, again, about procedure. So although the ARP committee did have an opportunity to present that and come to a determination, I truly believe that it needs to go through a standing committee to get approval, whether it's exact, whether it's finance, before it gets brought to the board. Just
Well,
so
and
it
I
has
apologize
another
for
stamp.
the nature, our normal committee assistant was out of town last week. And so I would just imagine there was just a miscommunication, so that boilerplate resolution wasn't forwarded to everyone. I did send a copy out just this morning because I woke up in time and happened to see that Jane had mentioned that it wasn't walked in. So I did email that to everyone this morning, but it's the same thing we saw last week. Like I said, it's just boilerplate, and it's being filled in at this time.
Mr. Sanchez, the portal has not even been developed yet, so I don't see a rush to get this thing pushed through quickly, because no funding is going to be happening, because there's not even the application process developed yet. So I don't see that there's a critical need to jump hoops to get this done. We've got several comments here as well. Yeah.
Madam Chair, Jared, I just wanted to, I don't think there would be an issue, a time issue, if we were to perhaps push this to, I personally think exec would be the proper channel, push this to exec.
We are exec.
No, I mean.
For next month,
exec.
next month.
So that would give us time to review it and so forth, but that would be my recommendation.
And that comes from one of your committees. Yeah, Mr. Shepro?
There's almost always a reasonable explanation about why we get stuff at the last minute, but it just seems as if the last couple of months, all kinds of things are coming at the last minute, and there's always a story. And I just think that courtesy, and I'm not singling out the ARPA committee, it's happened with other committees. I mean, now that Mr. Tepe has shown the way toward ingenious draftsmanship, I'm thinking about maybe we ought to amend the county code and say that the county board or the executive committee will not consider an item where we do not have the full submittal 48 hours before the meeting. I don't think that's unreasonable.
And
But
I would not totally disagree with that, although emergencies do come through, and I think we
and
have
you'd
to, we have to
make
be
an
careful
allowance
with
for
that. However, it's not just for us, it's for the public at large as well, to
Right.
be able to take a look at these documents. So thank you, Mr. Tepe.
I was just going to agree with Mr. Froz, and I actually saw an error in one of the documents that was incorporated with this. The committee had changed some of the parameters. So I was going to say, let's table this, or let's send this on the executive committee or back to ARPA.
Oh, so go back.
Motion,
Yes.
I'll second it.
I'll move that.
Which direction are you missing? Two different.
So can you restate the motion, please, so it's clear?
To send the American Rescue Plan parameters back to the ARPA committee.
Okay. And we have a second? Is there any discussion on that? Yes, Ms. Bates.
I'd like to hear from Mr. Sanchez if this will cause any serious delays in our process.
Absolutely. Mr. Sanchez?
Yeah, my understanding is that the portal information will not be input, the criteria will not be input until it's finalized by the county board, voted on by the county board. So essentially, it'll put the possibility of that back another month. We're going to be voting on the consultant firm. I don't know exactly how long it's going to take for them to get on board and get cracking on this for us. So it may be if we push it back another month, it'll still fall within the timeline of the business we're conducting. It may be that we'll have to wait a couple weeks longer than we would otherwise. So it's really the will of this committee, what you'd like to do.
And thank you for that. I think that they're independent of each other. You have a general guideline of what the committee has recommended. And that guideline hopefully will remain with clarification and accuracy for this resolution. But you have guidelines. So if that request is independent, I believe, of the application, because the application is going to be limited to so much money that'll be allocated. So for instance, your small grant program, I'm speaking off the top of my head now, is approximately $1 million is going to be allocated. So you have, you'll know all $4 million altogether for all the not-for-profits, but I think it was divvied up. So you'll know that your applications for whatever the criteria is for the smaller organizations to fund, you'll know it'd be totaling no more than $1 million can be allocated to that type of organization. So what I'm saying is that the application development and the award amount is independent of each other.
We're talking about the parameters.
That's exactly correct.
Madam Chair, if I may, real quick, just to address that. My understanding is that the consultant firm is going to take our criteria and will create the appropriate eligibility documentation requirements based on that. So again, it's just kind of, it's the will of this committee. If we want to wait that extra month and then the consultant firm will be able to take what we've officially voted on or not.
But we can't vote on something we haven't seen.
I don't approve of being dismissive of the necessity to have documents before us that we're going to review. And I don't approve of referring to documents uncompleted as mere boilerplate that we don't need to worry about. We are supposed to be a deliberative body. And I get this impression here that we're losing that,
We are deliberate.
losing that
Rigor.
sense of that obligation, or whoever used the word rigor. I agree. And we just simply can't move ahead, whether it's this or something else, and say, we'll show it to you next week. It's not right. If you forget all the parliamentary baloney, it's just not the way you make
It's not
decisions.
ethical. It's not good stewardship. And the trust that has been put upon us as an elected body. And I will stand firm on that.
Here.
So I think we have a motion. May we please call the vote? Call the vote?
Can you
Bates?
clarify the motion?
Yes,
Send
we
it
will
back.
clarify the motion. And to clarify, can you read the motion back for us, please?
Tepe had made a motion to send this back to the ARP committee. Shepro seconded it.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Yes,
So will that
Mr.
go
Ford.
back to, because that's not a standing committee, then it would come back to this committee?
After the ARP committee reviews it to make sure that, I believe he mentioned, Mr. Tepe mentioned that there was an error in the resolution. Once it is clarified, it'll come back to the executive committee. We're in agreement with that, which is fine, the standing committee, for approval, and that'll go to the December board meeting.
All right, thank you.
Yes.
This is a real question, not a comment. Does this mean that when it says not included, that it must be included?
It has to be included.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Yeah. And that goes not just for the ARP committee,
Mhm.
everybody.
Mhm.
Please call the vote.
Bates,
Yes.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Ford,
Board, yes.
Froz,
Yes.
Gums,
Yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Caius,
Guys, yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Sanchez, Strathman,
Strathman, yes.
Sturgis,
Surges, yes.
Tepe,
Happy, yes.
Shepro.
Shepro, yes.
It passes.
Sanchez, yes, also. Sorry.
Thank you.
All righty, Mr. Martin. There you are.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have three items before us today. The first, excuse me, is an ordinance amending the Kane County Building Code to conform the standards within our code to the current national standards. I would move that and request a second.
Shepro, second.
Are there comments or questions? I guess I'm sorry. I think I just purloined your meeting. I think you're supposed to call for the vote.
Go for it.
Let's watch
I'm
that
gonna-
guy.
I had to- I took me a
Usurper.
second to transition.
Can we not vote on all three at the same time?
We
We're just voting to put them on the consent agenda.
I'm sorry.
The motion is just to put these all on the consent agenda for next meeting.
Correct, correct. So
We can do all three, can do all three.
if you'd like to do all three,
Then I'll
please feel free.
Withdraw
Because it
my
was not
motion.
called off.
Number one. Number two and number three are both the initiation of demolition projects to rid the county of dangerous and unsightly residential properties. So I move all three.
I'll second. Shepro.
Is there any discussion now, please? Hearing none, please call the vote.
Oh, wait, excuse me.
Yes, sir.
I'm critical of process and I just,
That's your vote.
Number
Goofed it
three
up.
isn't really demolition.
three is not a demolition. Three is the
Gardens.
continuation, of our Ogden Gardens water project. So
Very
I
important
correct
project.
myself. It's a
That's-
very important project, but it's and it's not demolition.
We're-
You're gonna
I'm just-
demolish Ogden Gardens.
I'm feeling my mind is a little numb and I
I
apologize.
think after the, yes. I agree.
I'm moving all three
We- that-
as they read within the agenda.
I'm seconding them all.
Very good. Now, is everybody clear?
Yes.
Let's
ma'am.
take that vote.
Votak.
Bates,
Bates, yes.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Ford,
Yes.
Froz,
Yes.
Gums,
Gums, yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Caius,
Yes.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Sanchez, Strathman,
Strathman, yes.
Sturgis,
Sturgis, yes.
Tepe,
Tepe, yes.
Shepro,
Shepro, yes.
that passes.
Okay, very good. Ms. Bates?
I would like to move and ask for a second, authorizing an electronics recycling memorandum of understanding with Reverse Logistics Group of America and eWorks. Oh, don't move it. I can't read it. And eWorks Electronic Services to meet requirements of law. And Ms. Jarland is on the.
Caius, second.
Okay, is there any discussion on this item? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Bates,
Bates, yes.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Davist,
Davis, yes.
Ford,
Yes.
Froz,
Yes.
Gums,
Yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Caius,
Caius, yes.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Sanchez, Strathman,
Strathman, yes.
Sturgis,
Sturgis, yes.
Tepe,
Tepe, yes.
Shepro,
Shepro, yes.
passes.
Okay, very good. Mr. Shepro, could you present the next items for me, please?
Yes, so the first is authorizing an extension of the program development and administrative services agreement, which I note says not included.
Well, I think then, as we stand, that will have to be removed.
You could just remove it without a motion to do anything.
Correct.
It'll simply come back at the next meeting. So moving right along, the next is authorizing an acceptance of an intergovernmental grant agreement to establish a pre-arrest diversion initiative with the Kane County Sheriff's Office. And the third is authorizing an emergency affidavit for the Adult Justice Center, and perhaps somebody could help me with what the emergency affidavit is going to say.
I'll make the second.
I believe Mr. Kadich from the Sheriff's Office can address that.
Okay, hold on, just please feel, we may have a clarification. For item number 1. The resolution is included in the packet. There may have been a typo. Does everybody have a copy of this? And my apologies that I didn't flip through my book.
Could Blair scroll down to it?
I think as many of you, there's been so much
Yes,
going on.
It
It's
is
hard to keep
included
up.
in the packet,
It is.
Madam
It's there.
Chairman, number under executive.
It still says not included.
Page 95.
The resolution is on page 96, I believe.
Page 95 and page 96. So it is included. So we can include that in the vote.
I will move all three. And then if there's a second, then I would ask Sheriff to address the emergency affidavit, which I believe they were about to do.
Very good.
Gums will second. Oh, yeah, I
Berman.
thought there was.
Okay. Mr. Ford had seconded. Okay, we're ready now.
Madam Chair and committee members, thank you for having me. Detective Ed Kaddish of the Kane County Sheriff's Office. During normal operations at the Adult Justice Center, we made multiple discoveries that we had mechanical systems that are degrading and starting to fail due to ongoing service after 14 years of 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year of operation. We also had some weather-related incidents that compromised some of our electrical systems without failures, thank goodness, but we did have that implement or the water rush into some of these systems that we have to address immediately. These repairs are needed to require the level of service to our population that is required, and we cannot afford to have system failures in the future. If we do not do these repair these systems, I feel that failure is imminent among these systems. If that happens, then we're going to be paying for emergency repairs and outside services to provide the necessary items to the inmates in our jail, which would cost multiple times of what we're asking for right now. I'm happy to answer any questions about particular systems or items, but all of those should be included in the packet.
Mr. Martin.
I mean, it sounds, it sounds, this is.
Can you, Mr. Martin, we can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Obviously, this is a substantial expenditure, and I'm going to guess that it relates to long-term plans relative to the building, and I'm just wanting to make certain that we're coordinating the immediate need with the long-term plans for, operating the building.
I would refer that to building management, but building management is looped in on these repairs. They are aware of them, and they have given us their support, but I can ask Chris to comment.
Mr. Allen, please speak.
Thank you, Chris Allen, Building Management. Yes, these are being coordinated as their assessments go forward. I support the sheriff's decision that these are definitely need to be done now. I don't think we should wait till the assessment is complete.
Okay.
Yes, Mr. Shepro.
There's a question, how much is the anticipated cost of these repairs?
This particular is mentioned in the resolution.
It is
I can't
$160,804. Yes, Mr. Frost.
Fraz speaking, Mr. Allen, this would ultimately get traced back to our quality of water.
It could, yes.
So we've had ongoing problems with the quality of water we're receiving from the city of St. Charles, and it's causing havoc with our boilers and multiple other systems out there, and has been for a long time. So we're working with Water Resources on maybe a long-term solution.
Correct, that is correct. And not to disparage St. Charles Water, but many of the areas in Kane County have water that's hard, and it has to be prepared, softened, I guess, so that it doesn't ruin a furnace or a water softener. It's just the nature of our water.
So you do want to disparage St. Charles. You just want to know that they're part of a larger group.
Charles's feelings.
Having lived in St. Charles and having to replace a couple of my, God bless them.
Madam Chair, I had a question. Caius, it's either some of the new parts say they have a 30-year manufacturer warranty. Was there any warranty on the original?
We couldn't find any.
Well, don't lose this one. So 20 years.
We're here for 20 years, so hold on to that.
And put it
Extended
in a
file.
safe.
Can
Put
we
it
buy
in
the
a safe.
extended warranty?
All right, is there any other discussion on this? Hearing none, we can call the roll.
Bates,
Yes.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Davist,
Davis, yes.
Ford,
Ford, yes.
Froz,
Yes.
Gums,
Yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Caius,
Yes.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Sanchez, Strathman,
Yes.
Sturgis,
Sturgis, yes.
Tepe,
Tepe, yes.
Shepro,
Shepro, yes.
passes.
Very good.
That concludes the executive portion of the agenda.
Thank you very much. Mr. Berman,
We have 17 items. Do we need to go over each? Are there any you'd like to eliminate from our consent agenda?
Mike, please.
the microphone, please.
Oh. Are there any that you'd like to eliminate from our consent agenda? And then I move that we approve the items 1 through 17 under the finance.
Sturgis.
Thank you, Mr. Surges. Any conversation? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Bates,
Bates, yes.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Davist,
Davis, yes.
Ford,
Ford, yes.
Froz, Gums,
Yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Caius,
Yes.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Sanchez, Strathman,
Strathman, yes.
Sturgis,
Burgess, yes.
Tepe,
Happy, yes.
Shepro,
Oh, yes.
passes.
Good.
That's the end of finance.
Thank you for your efficiency on that, Mr. Berman. Ms. Molina.
Good morning, everyone. Our Judicial and Public Safety Committee has one item we'd like to move to the consent agenda for next week's meeting. And this is approving an intergovernmental agreement between Kane County and the Illinois Law Enforcement Alarm System as custodian of an ILEAS vehicle for mutual aid. And I'd move this.
Shepro seconds.
Thank you. Any discussion on this item? Clerk, please call the roll.
Bates, Berman,
Berman, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Ford,
Yes.
Frost, Gums,
Yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Caius,
Caius, yes.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Sanchez, Strathman,
Strathman, yes.
Sturgis,
Burgess, yes.
Tepe,
Happy, yes.
Shepro,
Shepro, yes.
passes.
Thank you very much. Mr. Froz.
Yeah, Transportation Committee, I have 8 items. I'll move all 8.
I would second it. Kenyon.
Okay.
Thank you. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, I can move through these pretty quick, Madam Chair. Item 1 is a 1-year contract extension with the current auto parts supplier. Item 2 is to approve a temporary ride-in, ride-out access off Randall Road at Grandview, which is in the Carpentersville, Algonquin area for the North Point campus. Item 3 approves amendment number 5 to the IGA with North Aurora. This is for Randall Road between Orchard and 88, and it removes some oversight and transfers it to the village of North Aurora. Items 4 and 5, these are 2 contracts that combined provide various services to manage our traffic signals and streetlight systems throughout the county. And items 6, 7, and 8 approve various engineering service agreements and amendments. That's all I have.
Hearing no discussion on any of these items, clerk, please call the roll.
Bates,
Bates, yes.
Berman,
Yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Ford,
Ford, yes.
Frost,
Yes.
Gums,
Gums, yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Caius,
Yes.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Sanchez, Strathman,
Strathman, yes.
Sturgis,
Burgess, yes.
Tepe,
Happy, yes.
Shepro,
Shepro, yes.
passes.
Good. I don't believe I know of any need to go into executive session.
Won't have anything else to talk about?
No, I think we've talked enough.
I can think of something, Mr. Kenyon.
Yeah, I've got one minor.
Oh, to go into it, let's,
No,
committee reports. We're going on now to committee reports. Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think many of you have received a letter from Ms. Hanson in St. Charles, Illinois, and was regarding an issue between her and the treasurer's office. And I did investigate what had happened, and it was not her fault, nor was it the treasurer's office fault. And I just want to let you all know that I did get back to her. So I've responded to her. If I hear from her again, I'll probably go stop at her house and see what's going on.
Thank you.
So
Thank you for
anyway,
that.
thank you.
Very good. Yes, Mr. Foss.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate what I sent to the board. Unfortunately, we lost one of our KDOT workers last week. He was working on the job, but his death was apparently, at this point, natural causes. Kevin C. Ackerman. And we send his best wishes and prayers to his family. And I'll mention this also at the full board meeting.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Much too young, much too young.
35 years old and has 1 child and just bought a house.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful family. Is there anything else?
I would move with adjourn,
Madam Chair, I don't know if you would want to talk about the parade.
Oh, the parade. Thank you. Something fun. We're have little ad hoc committee. I believe that you have were sent out yesterday a notice. We are moving forward with the parade committee. The parade takes place November
27th.
Is it the 27th in the evening? I have attended the parade numerous times, and it is delightful. It is truly a family-oriented celebration of holidays, all holidays that we all celebrate during different times of December. We have, I think we have a trailer and we have a truck that is coming. We ordered some supplies yesterday to decorate the truck of a modest amount. There's going to be lights that are going to be donated, and we have Christmas trees that are going to be donated. We have, I was corrected, it's not hay, but we have straw bales that I'm not sure, I think we're going to be getting straw bales. And we're going to have a work crew, volunteer work crew, which I will be attending. A week.
Me too.
Thank you. Oh, I know, Michelle, you are just so enthusiastic about this. Thank goodness. I'll just take direction. Tell me what to do. We'll be working next, not this Saturday, but the following Saturday from 9 to noon. And hopefully we'll get most of it done. And it'll be at the house at the multi-purpose center. So it'll be in a heated building and enclosed. Then if there needs any additional work to be done, it'll be done the following Saturday. But I know a lot of people need to go shopping, et cetera, because of the upcoming Thanksgiving celebration. So we're hoping to get most of the work done a week from this upcoming Saturday. I think that there's a drop-off time as well for supplies. And Chris, can you, when did we, do you remember the date of the drop-off for donations? And as he's looking, it's celebrating 185 years of Kane County.
Yes, ma'am, Chris Allen again. I believe we worked out next Monday and Wednesday between 12 and 4 to be dropped off at the multipurpose building. However, if there are donations that can't meet with that timeline, just let me know and I'll make sure myself or someone's there to receive the donations.
Thank you. Now, if one other clarification, I know all of you are enthusiastically looking at attending this. If
Some of
that-
us will be out of town.
If that isn't the case, but if you would like to attend and you are interested in dressing up in a appropriate costume that you feel would best represent 185 years, please let us know and we will direct you to either you can go get something on your own. There is a costume company that rents out costumes located in Batavia at the Campana building. We'll give you that information so that you can go rent something if you so choose. And it can span the 185 years. So if any of you want to go in bell bottoms, please feel free.
Go to your closet. I'm just saying, I don't have to. He's got his stuff in his closet.
And we will need a list of people seriously who will be walking so we can provide that to the parade group, the organizers, so they know who is walking. And because we are servants and we serve the community, I thought that unless we are unable to, all board members will walk and our volunteers who are staff will have the opportunity to ride in the back of the truck. So they will also have to dress up as appropriate.
I'm just wondering when we will be interviewing the consultant that's going to help us with the regulations for the parade.
I think Ms. Gums is online right now, and
Yeah.
we have an agreement with her that she will be donating her services.
Correct. Yeah, sorry, it's not included.
Yeah.
But we have her verbal authorization.
I'd like a
That's
portal
right.
for the donations, please. I'd like a portal open for the donations.
All donations
it.
will be
You have to set
recognized.
the parameters.
So it truly will be, I believe, a lot of fun. And
What's the date of the parade?
the 27th, it's the Saturday after
After
Thanksgiving,
Black Saturday.
I leave on the 26th.
that we will miss you.
I'll miss it.
But there will be, if
We'll talk about you then.
If you would like to donate a canoe for the float, you may have one. Please feel free to do
A
so.
kayak.
No,
That's-
we want a canoe.
Hot chocolate and rum will be provided.
Hot chocolate is can be purchased and rum is on your own.
Bring our own flask. Bearing
Get
in
out
mind
those
all
flasks.
applicable regulations to alcohol at county.
Correct. And
grounds.
alcohol is not allowed on county
Mr.
facilities.
Kenyon, I believe
Um,
you had something you wanted to say.
I want to adjourn.
That's what I.
Actually,
Second.
I think it's another record meeting. I think it's one of the longest.
Hope I can.
Yeah, it's only 11 o'clock.
A short
But
memory.
Not as bloody as some of them.
Just seems like it.
This has not been too bad. So we have a motion, we have a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Bates.
Bates and Ford are tied for the second. May I have a vote? Are we a consensus? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Gums, I think, oh, that was an aye, Ms. Gums, yes. Well, the meeting is adjourned.